Hello there, I'm Janette Lane, a craft designer here at CraftStash headquarters, and today I wanted to share how to work with a texture, medium, and stencil to create this springy card. Stencils have so many uses. You can ink with them, you can paint with them, you can use texture paste or embossing paste, or even trace with them with a pen or a colored pencil. So let's get started. I'm starting with a piece of white watercolor paper that I've trimmed down, and I'm going to be using my Smoothie blender and Distress Oxide Ink in the color Wild Honey to create a yellow background. And I'm concentrating the color in some areas by just using a heavier hand and blending them out slightly. So just in like the three corners, I kind of got just a little bit more heavy-handed, got a little bit more color down on my paper. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to be using my water spritzer to create that fun oxidized effect. As you can see, I get some really fun water droplet action on my paper, and at this point you can spritz more water on top or even layer a different oxide just for some fun effects if you're going for that kind of look. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be grabbing a stencil to create subtle watermarks. Now this stencil is the latest apple blossom stencil in the 12 months of flowers collection. So currently the flower for the upcoming month of March is the daffodil, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So I'm using a baby wipe to lift off some of the oxide color from my card to create a stenciled effect. Now when you do this, you want to make sure you're dabbing and not doing circular motions or rubbing. Don't rub, just dab. And chances are you won't wear through your paper, so just dab. I found that out the hard way, by the way. But that's okay, you know why? Because sometimes crafting is just testing and experimenting, and at the end you find out what works best. So what works best is just dabbing with the baby wipe. And you could also use another Distress Oxide ink with a stencil to create a really colorful background, but I really enjoyed the process of lifting off the color with the baby wipe. It was just really fun. And you could also use a small wet sponge that's not too soppy, or a wet cloth as well. I wanted to add more water droplet effects, so I'm spritzing my paper again, but since my spritzer lets out a fine mist, I'm actually spritzing my fingers and then letting the water accumulate and drip down onto the paper, and this creates bigger water droplets. My background is dry and turned out just the way that I wanted, so I'm really pleased with it. And now it's time to add my texture to the card with some Cosmic Shimmer Multi-Text powder. And you can mix this with water to get a really thick or kind of watered down paste, depending on how much water that you use. It's such a great medium. You can add sprays or other inks to create various colors. And of course you can use texture paste or embossing mousse in case you don't have multi-text to pair with your stenciling. It's completely up to you, but it's just a really fun medium to work with and play with. Now the trickiest part about this is getting the consistency right, but you can experiment by adding more powder or more water. I feel like the best way to describe this is with baking texture. So describing the consistency with baking texture. So I would say that the ideal consistency is that of cookie dough. I love cookies. But yeah, it's a little pliable, but still kind of firm. You definitely want to avoid cake batter consistency because your paste will spread everywhere if you put too much water on it. So aim for something close to cookie dough consistency. And in case you're new to texture mediums, they are a great way to add texture and body to your projects. And you can use them with stencils, or you can just smear it on a card background or canvas for a nice artistic effect. I sprayed some ink spray mist to get that blue color I'm aiming for, and this is also by Creative Expressions. But if you noticed, my fingers got super inky. I'm seriously the clumsiest crafter on earth, I think. I didn't realize, it's funny because I actually didn't realize I was clumsy until I got into crafting. So let me know if you're clumsy like me in the comments below if you have a second. I would love to know. I absolutely love hearing from you. Ideally, when you're working with stencils, you want to make sure that you're spreading your texture medium in one direction. So downwards is best, but because my stencil area is so small, it was really hard to maneuver my spatula in the right direction. And also, you probably want to try not to use so much paste. I got a little bit heavy-handed, but it's honestly all a bit of trial and error, especially when you're working with smaller stencils and trying to be very precise. But I really like how dimensional my flowers turned out. Of course, you want to try and create smooth, thin layers with your texture medium and stencil. Thin layers of paste are best, but I felt the extra paste really gave my flowers more dimension and kind of an artistic effect. They're really popping off the page and I love it. I'm drying my paste with my heat tool to speed up the process. And if you don't have a heat tool, then you're going to need about 30 to 45 minutes for the medium to dry completely. And this is why I love my heat tool. It's a great staple to have, so if you don't have one, you should consider possibly getting one. I think it's just a great tool to have overall. And next, I'm going to be moving on to stamping my card with this stamp set that's also part of the Apple Blossom 12 Months of Flowers collection. And it says, the sentiment says, "Have a wonderful day." And I'm just going to be using black VersaFine ink for that. Next, I'm going to use this Glitter Kiss medium to add some sparkle to my flowers. And it does have a sponge applicator, but it's a little bit bigger than I require, so I'm just going to use my finger to pick up some of the glitter and add it to my flowers. And this medium also has enough body that you can also pair it with stencils. And when I used it beforehand in preparation for this video, it dried really nicely and had zero glitter fallout. So I'm really excited to try it with more projects. It was a little tricky to capture the sparkle, but trust me, it's there. I don't know why, but that sounded like a motivational quote. That was definitely unintentional. I apologize for that. Trust the sparkle. Okay, moving on. I'm going to be adding some yellow pearls with some of this acrylic glue, which is also by Creative Expressions. And once that's all done, all that's left is to mount my card onto my card base, and I'm also going to be using that same glue as before. Well, I'm done with my card. I hope that you got some ideas and are inspired to make your own. Everything that I used to make this is available at craftstash.co.uk, where you'll find heaps and heaps of inspiration and how-tos. All right, I'm gonna conga my way out of here. Bye.